Hey folks, it's Marvin Cash, the host of The Articulate Fly. We're back with the last On the Water of the season with Dustin White. How you doing, Dustin?
Marvin, we're cooling off here finally a little bit in Wyoming, so doing great. Loving life. How are you doing, man?
I'm getting there. Is the bunny giving you the finger?
Always is.
Yeah, you should still pet the bunny, though.
Yeah, the big middle ear. That's the one from the rabbit. But yeah.
All good. So we were talking, so you're basically, with maybe one exception, you think you're at your winter flows. And so, what does that look like and what does that mean for anglers?
Yeah, I think anglers are going to see a lot more predictable, consistent conditions. Things are going to be temperature related. For the most part, on the North Platte, grass is diminishing. The reef still has a bunch of grass kind of stuck up at proper up at the dam, but as you start getting those lower stretches, we're done with that free floating moss. Our hatches are much more predictable now, and in all honesty, you can read this river right now like a comic book. Especially the reef section for a lot of folks, it's a little more subtle. It's a kind of a proper meandering Western prairie style river. So a lot of times when water's up, it's tough to discern where those fish are holding at. But right now that we're at 500 CFS, the fish are in pretty obvious spots. The mile always is a very easy river to read. Now that we are at winter flows on the mile, for folks that are wanting to float that, I do want to encourage some caution. Even though the water's down, that's actually when it becomes probably its most difficult to row, most dangerous to potentially, a center or as I've seen before, even sink a drift boat. So just take some caution if folks are going to be out there rowing the mile. Watch out for those sleeper rocks. Make sure you're kind of doing the duck and dive around the boulder fields that are there. But in terms of fishing, pretty fantastic. We are in full blown, dry fly and streamer season, which is such a fun time of year for us.
Very, very neat. And so, on the streamer side, are the big browns on the move yet?
A bit, not quite. We're still probably, even though we've talked about, we're cooling off, this week it was still in the mid 70s. So we still need to get, some cooler temps to get those fish going. So, we are seeing these browns, we are, catching some, but they aren't quite in full effect yet. We're seeing browns being caught with some regularity on the Bighorn. Those fish are holding pretty tight to the banks. Water's a bit higher there, even though it's dropped. The one thing on the Horn to be aware of is there's still a ton of grass that's still growing from the bottom. It's not broke loose yet. So having the appropriate sink tip or floating line and kind of going through that schematic run to run and how deep you are versus how high in the water column, that's going to yield a lot of success and a lot less frustration of raking in grass. But we're starting to see the browns. Like I said, more on the Bighorn, but we're probably a week or so out before we start seeing a little bit more of an influx on the North Platte with those browns, both on the mile and on the reef.
Yeah, got it. And I would imagine your dry fly game is probably October caddis, maybe some blue-winged olives. I think you told me last time you still had crane flies, right?
Yep, crane flies is still seeing some here or there, but not too much anymore. But yeah, October caddis 100%. Blue wings the afternoon, later in the afternoon, a ton of midges. But it is a super fun time of the year to where, when you get to those twilight hours, there's heads everywhere and they almost are eating anything you throw at them. So as long as it's in the ballpark, they're going to be pretty happy fish. Have been spooky, and that's the other thing with lower water, without as much moving through. They're demanding a little more precision on presentation, and from a further distance out than what would be optimal for some folks. So being able to air out a pretty precise 35 to 50-foot cast is pretty difficult, to do. But for a lot of folks, but a lot of these fish don't want us to get any nearer than 35 feet before they spook off, and that's pretty indicative of low clear water. So being able, if you're wade fishing, you definitely have an advantage to kind of spot and stock and kind of get in a good position where you can make a cast. But if you're in a drift boat, just be aware that they're probably not going to let that boat get any closer than maybe 35 feet. So casts are going to be at least that, if not a little bit further.
Yeah, I got it. And I guess too, one of the benefits of I always think about this when the water's low is to kind of fish that day, but also think about, this is what the river bottom looks like when the water's higher so that you can fish a little bit smarter the rest of the year, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You kind of start learning, oh, there's a bucket here that I didn't even know about or wouldn't been able to tell, or there's this, point that comes out that those fish probably going to hold on, even though it doesn't necessarily reveal itself in reading the surface of the water when water's up. So absolutely, take those mental notes. And if folks are unaware or exploring new waters, having that kind of tuck away in your memory bank, so to speak, can help down the road as well once water's back up.
Yeah, absolutely. And, folks, this is our last episode of the season. And so we're going to draw for a half a day guided trip with Dustin, and really happy actually for the person that won this. They're a very regular question asker at the Articulate Fly across a lot of our fishing reports, and wanted to let Brenner Johnson know that he won the half day. So congratulations, Brenner.
Awesome. Congrats, Brenner. I'm stoked that you won it. And even more stoked to be able to share some time on the water with you coming up. So I'm stoked and really, really appreciated the question that was asked.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as we wrap things up for the season, what does the off season hold for Dustin James White?
Marvin, there's not too much of an off season. Obviously, I'm going to head back to the great state of Ohio and guide there in Pennsylvania for our lake run steelhead that come off of Lake Erie. And so it'll be nice to get back to my home waters there and be able to target some steel bows, as we call them. And then, I'll be heading down to the Carolinas and doing a bit of red fishing and taking some folks out to do that. So that's a little bit of what the off season looks like before kicking right back out here to Wyoming.
They don't have good pierogies in Casper?
No, we don't have my Slovenian dishes that I am well accustomed to in Cleveland. Our Eastern European dishes are few and far between here if we're not making them on our own, which we do a lot of. We do a lot of pierogi making and sauerkraut and sausages, but it has to usually rely on friends coming out to fish with me from Northeast Ohio that bring the groceries out with them. So I get to do that, and thankfully had a few buds that came out and fished with me a couple weeks ago that stocked me up on all the proper Eastern European mustards and everything else that are a bit of creature comforts for me. So yeah, I'll be eager to get back to Northeast Ohio and have some proper food.
Yeah, and you won't have to buy rounds of drinks at whatever bar you make people watch the Browns game on, right?
Oh, exactly. Yeah. With the Browns backers crew here in Casper is a party of two. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, there you go. Well, listen, it's been super fun working with you on this again this season. And, folks, fall is my favorite time of the year to get out there and fish. So get out there and catch a few. Tight lines, everybody. Tight lines, Dustin.
Tight lines, Marvin. Thanks so much.